Hunting the whitetail rut has got to be the most exciting time for a deer hunter. But let's face it, life gets in the way and sometimes we miss out on it. Can you score during the post-rut? You bet you can. This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV. Come November, you know, you're getting into late October, it gets to November 1st. That's the time that we as whitetail hunters, we dream about this, we live for this all year long. It's the rut. You know, the rut takes place over several weeks. It encompasses several phases, but it's so fascinating because there's so much action in the woods packed into those few days and weeks and times that we actually get a chance to go out there and sit in our tree stands or our blinds. Those are the times that we really need to be tuned in and know what's happening so we can maximize our efforts and hopefully come home successful. So if you're lucky, you could take off all of October and November and hunt the whole rut. See all those phases come together, it would be a beautiful thing. Let's face it, nobody can do that. You know, most of us, we have a few days, we can wrap around a weekend, and a lot of times you're gonna miss the peak point of the rut. What signs are there that's going to tell me that the rut is starting to die down? Well, basically it's not that difficult. You're going to see less activity. You're going to see less buck activity during the day, but you're also going to see more feeding activity, not only by the bucks, but by the does. That's what's going to tell me that, yep, things are dying down. If I see mature does, adult does even, out in the field during daylight, middle of the afternoon and feeding, that's going to tell me that chances are the breeding activity is pretty much subsided and things are winding down. So what I'm going to do here is basically revert to my early season tactics. I'm going to be keying on food, I'm going to be keying on bedding areas, and what that normally means is focusing on travel corridors.
My wife works over Thanksgiving, so this would be an ideal time to hunt. And best of all, the rut is raging in Montana right then. It's waning, winding down, but those deer are still hard on the hunt for that last doe. So you can have some of the best, hottest rutting action of the whole season as mature bucks just seek out that last fling for the year.
Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by
Let's start in the northeast and move westward. In the northeast, post-rut, those bucks are going to be still cruising, but it's going to be limited to some of those conifer swamps, some of those lowland areas, transitioning up to hardwood benches, that type of thing. You get into the Midwest, you've got your farm crops, you've got a lot of cover, a little bit easier to track those deer. You get out west, it's a totally different story. Those deer seemingly can just disappear. The cover is so varied, it's so different, and these deer can hunker down, hide, you're not gonna see them. That was the case for Mark Kayser. He's hunting Montana. He couldn't find a mature whitetail to save his life, but thankfully out there, your tag is good for either whitetail or mule deer.
Did you grab my coffee? It was the first state that I actually went west to when I was younger, growing up in South Dakota, and I felt like it was the true West. For me, it's like coming home to hunt with family. Rich and Sue Schneider run one of the best operations, a small guiding service and outfitting operation that feels just like all your friends and family have showed up here. Nice accommodations, great home-cooked meals, and access to big sky country. The afternoons were spent watching fields where we hoped the deer would come out in masses, chase around, and possibly give us a chance to do some stalks. Again, we weren't disappointed. We didn't see quite the number of deer we'd hoped, but you know, it's late in the season. Some of the deer have already went home with clients. Hey, congrats to them. Some of the deer were up in the hills chasing does, so we might not see them. And of course, some of the deer were down on the fields. Well, it was another day in Montana. Montana has definitely been more challenging this year than any prior visit I've had here. And I've hunted Montana a lot of years. They had a big EHD breakout, so the whitetail numbers are way down. Probably down more than I even suspected. And mule deer seem to be scattered at the end of the rut. So a couple days into this hunt, but we're still gonna keep trying. One of these big mule deer or whitetails is gonna screw up yet. As the sun was setting, we worked toward the edge of a bank to look down into this beautiful alfalfa field bottom. Plenty of cover, and what did we see? Yeah, those cagey whitetails. Two bucks were pushing a hot doe underneath the bank, right below us. There were some more does there, and as I crept up there, I got a good look at a buck that really made me think hard. I got down on my bipods, got ready to shoot, looking at this buck, and all I could think of is, man, he would look really good in one more year. It was a gorgeous 4x5 buck, but he just was a year young. As he went out there, he paused at about 250, 260 yards, gave me the perfect shot. I was prone, on my bipods, and I passed. I don't know why I did it, but it's just the way I feel. I'm always trying to shoot a mature buck, and this buck needed that one more year time period. Like we're seeing with quite a few of the mule deer bucks out there. A lot of great bucks that were gonna be perfect bucks the next year. They are?
Yep, the two bucks are fighting. Fighting hard.
You wanna get down there?
Yeah, let's go down there. They're fighting hard. They're fighting.
At daybreak, we immediately spotted deer. Bucks chasing, bucks fighting, bucks roaming, but not just quite the buck we wanted yet. I saw two that I really thought were just on the edge of being shooters. But I had looked at them the previous day and they were just again 1 year away. Rich said, you know what, we've looked at this area hard, let's hustle down, see if we can't catch one of those big whitetails that he had seen earlier in the season on those fields. right where we had had the encounter with the whitetail the night before. I said, why not? We started working the vehicle down there, it was several miles away, and Rich hit the brakes. He had seen some more deer. Shooter. We saw a buck from the road. We've been doing a lot of spotting from the road just because we can cover more country. This looks like a good buck, mature, not a Boone and Crockett mule deer, but definitely a mature deer. We're going to do a little stalk on him right now and see if we can't make this work. It might be a long day ordeal because he's in some big open broad country, but we'll give it a shot. I slowly made my way up to a cliff, a steep cliff, and peered over ever so slowly. I crept up just a little more and peeked through a couple rocks, and my kilos revealed a buck, the buck.
Got him? Yep.
Just a shot, he took a step. So I hit him just a little far back, I think. We'll get over there. We're gonna go up right on top here and look down. Let's go. Montana's big country. These mule deer cover a lot of country. This is big badlands type country, so it took a little bit to catch up with a mature buck here. We finally did it right at the end of the hunt. We have a gorgeous mule deer buck right here. That's what you can expect in Montana, hunting with J&J Guide Service here out of Ekalaka. I think Rich is going to be a little surprised at the size of this deer. He's everything we thought he was when we were looking at him from afar. Mature, 5.5-year-old deer, nice mass, decent forks all around and brows. The only bad part is getting him out of here.
Hey, if you want to save a little bit of money and have more control over your archery accuracy and have better archery success, cut your own arrows. Invest in an arrow saw. You will thank me for it later because you're going to use it time and time again. Cut a couple dozen arrows, you've already paid for the saw. First thing what we're going to do though, before we even get to cutting arrows, a couple things that I use. Hearing protection, breathing protection is important when you're cutting carbon. You do not want to inhale that. And eye protection for the same reason. You don't want to get that in your eyes. So just keep those things on hand. And just like a good carpenter, measure twice, cut once. Arrows are not cheap. These things are highly accurate. They're great for bow hunting. But what I'm going to do is I take one of my older arrows that I've been shooting and I measure it to make sure that the saw hasn't moved. It's the same length that I want. Then I get to cutting the arrows. And when I do cut the arrows, The biggest problem I see with beginning archers and bow hunters is they cut those arrows too long. You don't want that arrow sticking way out past your arrow rest. It's not necessary, and it's going to be a preference thing for you, but for me it's maybe an inch past that arrow rest depending upon what type of arrow rest you have. But measure that arrow that you've been shooting, you've been having success with, and then we're going to cut our new arrows to that exact length. So if you have a saw and you've never used it, you gotta understand how these saws work before you turn the thing on and before you start cutting arrows. Again, once you cut an arrow, that arrow better be going home with you, so to speak, because you can't put it on after you cut it off. These arrow saws, basically, it's kind of like a grinding wheel, and so it's not like a circular saw. And what you wanna do is when you get that arrow into the bracket to saw the arrow, what I'm doing is I'm setting it in there, I'm gently rolling it toward the blade, and I'm letting the blade, so I'm rolling it toward the blade, I'm letting the blade catch it there, and in one motion I just keep turning it. And that's critically important, especially with carbon. If you're cutting carbon, it could fray it if you just try to shove it into that cutting wheel, and it's not going to be the end result that you want. So what you want is slow and steady, get it on there, roll it toward the blade, cut it off. That end is going to pop off. You just take the arrow, pop it in. I keep a pail here, pop it into there, get my next arrow. The other thing I want to do is after I cut them, they come, most arrow boxes come with this little stone. You can pick it up for just maybe $1 or $2 at an archery shop, but that little stone helps you hone the edge and get any little burrs out of the end of the shaft after you cut it. That is important for keeping the integrity of the end of the arrow, and also when you're putting your inserts in. You're really going to thank yourself, like I said, save yourself some money, and also you're going to be able to customize that arrow length specifically to your draw length.